If you're hunting for a laptop that actually lets you game, edit videos, and still feel comfortable logging into Zoom without the whole thing overheating, you're probably feeling a bit wary. You've seen the flashy specs: high refresh OLED screen, a beefy RTX 5060, and a massive 32GB of RAM, but what matters in the end is whether the machine stays solid day to day, fits in the budget you've set, and doesn't become a paperweight the moment you open a game. That's the exact spot I was in last month, and after a few weeks of testing the Lenovo Legion 5i, I think I've nailed down who should really consider this rig and who would be better off looking elsewhere. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the Legion 5i feels more like a workhorse than a sleek ultrabook. The chassis is a brushed metal finish that isn't quite as thin as some of the premium gaming laptops, but it's sturdy enough to survive the occasional bump when you pack it into a backpack for a coffee shop session. The real surprise for me was the weight. At 5.4 pounds, it's heavier than a typical 15-inch notebook, but the distribution is balanced, which means you can still carry it around without it feeling like a brick. If you're the kind of gamer who moves between a desk at home and a couch at a friend's place, that portability factor is something you'll notice right away. Now, about the display. Lenovo opted for a 15.1-inch OLED panel with a 2.5K resolution and a 165Hz refresh rate. In practical terms, that translates to incredibly vivid colors and deep blacks that make any game with a dark aesthetic look atmospheric. Think Elden Ring or Cyberpunk 2077. The high refresh rate also smooths out fast-paced shooters, so you can spot enemies a fraction of a second earlier than on a 60Hz screen. The downside? OLED panels can be a bit temperamental with static UI elements. I noticed a faint ghosting after leaving my Discord overlay on for an hour, though it was hardly a deal-breaker. For most users who primarily game or watch movies, the visual punch outweighs that minor issue. The heart of this machine is the Intel Core Ultra 7255HX paired with an NVIDIA RTX 5060. On paper, that sounds like a mid-range GPU, but in real use it performs admirably. In my testing, modern titles like Fortnite ran consistently above 100 frames per second on high settings, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider hovered around 70 frames per second at Ultra. The RTX 5060 also handled ray tracing reasonably well, though you'll need to dial down a few settings to keep frame rates fluid. If you're a creator who does occasional 1080p video editing, the 32GB of DDR5 RAM and the PCIe 4.0 SSD ensure that timeline scrubbing is buttery smooth. The 1TB SSD gives you a healthy amount of fast storage, and the included 1TB portable HDD, which plugs into the side via USB-C, is a handy way to offload large media libraries without paying extra for a second internal drive. Cooling is where the Legion shines, or at least, where it tries hard not to stumble. Lenovo's advanced cooling system utilizes a dual-fan layout with a larger vapor chamber, and after a marathon session of Apex Legends lasting 3 hours, the laptop's surface temperature stayed in the low 70s Celsius range. That's tolerable enough that the keyboard stays comfortable, and I didn't have to throttle down the graphics settings to keep the fans from screaming. You will hear the fans kick in more aggressively when you push the GPU, but the noise level stays below that of a typical gaming console in the same room. Battery life is always a question with gaming laptops, and here the Legion 5i doesn't pretend to be a marathon runner. The 80Wh battery gave me about 5 hours of mixed usage, some web browsing, a couple of Discord calls, and a short gaming session with Valorant. Once you unplug, the power draw climbs quickly, so you'll want to keep the charger handy for anything beyond casual play. That said, the charger itself is a 230W brick that's fairly compact, and the power delivery feels stable even when the GPU spikes. Who should buy this? If you're a serious gamer who also dabbles in content creation, maybe you stream on Twitch, edit YouTube videos, or run a side hustle that requires render time, the Legion 5i gives you a balanced package. The OLED screen makes your visual work look professional, and the high-speed SSD plus ample RAM mean multitasking feels painless. It's also a solid choice for students in graphic design or architecture programs who need a laptop that can handle both CAD software and occasional gaming downtime. Who should skip it? If you're looking for a thin and light laptop to slip into a backpack for long commutes, there are better options out there, even if they sacrifice a bit of raw power. Also, if you primarily play fast-paced esports titles and need the absolute highest frame rates with minimal input lag, a laptop with a higher-tier GPU like an RTX 3070 or above might give you that extra edge. Finally, if you're extremely budget-conscious, the Legions